Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Therapy isn't the messiah. I got bad news for y'all. It's not the be all end all. It is not the messiah. And here's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to make some confessions. And what I'm about to commit might be the greatest social sin of modern day society, but I'm going there. I'm going to question therapy. I'm going to get into it. And not just question it, I'm going to put it on blast. And I'm going to flay it a bit. Not because therapy is bad or evil or unnecessary, or not because therapists themselves are bad or evil necessarily, but because somewhere along the way, therapy became something it was never supposed to be. It became a modern day form of religion. Think about it. When someone says they're unhappy, immediately, have you tried therapy? When someone says, "Oh, you know what? I'm feeling disconnected." Well, guess what? Have you tried therapy? Someone has no sense of purpose, no direction, no community, no real relationships, no sense of wonder. Well, sounds like you need therapy. You see, therapy has become the answer before you've even figured out what the question is, or questions are. It's like walking into a restaurant and the waiter says, "Well, what would you like?" And you say, "I don't know." And he says, "Perfect. We'll bring you therapy." You see, it's become the emotional equivalent of duct tape. It's that thing you kind of put on everything. Everything gets fixed with the same roll of duct tape. It's a catch-all. Or at least we're told it does. Now, before someone clips this and posts it with the caption, "Spiritual coach declares war on mental health therapy and counseling," will you just freaking relax? I mean, take a breath. Seriously. Actually, you know what? Don't. Because, you probably have already done 3 breathing exercises today while counting backwards even. Or, excuse me, was it the 5 senses activity that you participated in? Anyhow, let's have a real conversation, shall we? Therapy has helped millions of people. It's saved lives. It's done wonders. People have grown tremendously through therapy. If you're drowning in trauma, depression, anxiety, panic, grief, therapy can be a wonderful and extraordinary gift. But here's my question. Here it is. What happens after you stop drowning? What if your problem isn't simply surviving anymore? What if you're done with simply surviving? What if your problem is that you've forgotten how to live? What if you've forgotten what it means to feel alive and really live? To really feel alive? Those are radically different questions. And they deserve radically different perspectives and conversations. I think one of therapy's greatest strengths can also become one of its greatest weaknesses, as is often the case. It is excellent at helping people understand themselves and becoming expert historians of their past, through family history and all the rest. Sometimes, though, it can become too excellent. We have become a civilization of therapy speak geeks. Yes, therapy speak geeks who are emotionally fluent overthinkers. People can explain their attachment style, their trauma response, their nervous systems, their brain anatomy, their neurobiology, their childhood, their family dynamics, their shadows. They know the language. They know the lingo. They know Freud. They know boundaries. They know the inner child. They know their outer child. They know their emotional support cactus. I guess that's a thing. We know everything about ourselves historically, except, who we're becoming. And to me, that's a problem. Because understanding yourself isn't the finish line. It's the starting line. That's where it begins. Insight without movement is just beautifully articulated stagnation. Imagine hiring a hiking guide for a moment, if you will. You tell them, I want to reach the summit. I want to get to the top. They respond, wonderful. Then every week, going forward, you meet at the same damn parking lot. You discuss the mountain. You analyze the mountain. You explore your relationship with mountains. You examine childhood experiences involving hills and mountains. You identify triggers related to elevation. And 5 years later, you're still standing in the parking lot. See what I'm saying here? But you have incredible insight, though. You still haven't climbed the mountain. You're still in that damn parking lot. And sometimes therapy can accidentally become that said parking lot. And not because therapists are malicious or harmful, because that's often what the profession is trained to do. To observe, reflect, understand, dig into your past, reflect upon it, make sense of it, help you make sense of it. Those are all worthy things and powerful. But many people don't just want to be healed from their past. They want depth, not diagnosis. They want more life. They want to move forward. They want more mystery, more adventure, more meaning, more purpose. Yeah, these are the things they want. They want that sacredness. And those things don't always fit neatly into diagnostic language. So let's be honest for a moment. Our culture has become obsessed with symptom management. Yeah, that's a dirty thing to say out loud, isn't it? Everything is about reducing discomfort, reduce stress, reduce anxiety, reduce vulnerability, reduce depression, reduce addictive nature, reduce conflict, reduce uncertainties, and so many other things. Get rid of it. We become masters of riddance and subtraction. But life isn't only about subtracting pain, because that's really not how it works, is it? It's also about adding meaning. You can remove every weed from a garden and still never plant a flower. Here's where I get into trouble. I think sometimes therapy accidentally teaches people to become lifelong students of themselves, to be experts of the therapy world, instead of courageous participants in life, experiencers, if you will. There comes a point where more analysis becomes procrastination wearing glasses. We call it processing. Sometimes it's just hiding. It's complacency. Therapy's dirty secret is the coast of comfort. See you next week becomes as regular as brushing your teeth daily. And pretty soon you're in therapy for years. Some people have spent years talking about becoming authentic. They're still in that parking lot. Instead of risking authenticity. Years talking about boundaries instead of setting them, instead of applying them. Talking about purpose. Years talking about purpose instead of living it and pursuing it. Talking about fear. Years of that instead of walking through the fire of their fears. And at some point, you have to leave the parking lot, don't you? You have to leave the office. Reality is where transformation happens. That's the sweet spot, not the waiting room. And can we have a little fun here for a moment? Humor me, will you? Therapists absolutely love worksheets. There has to be a secret underground warehouse somewhere. An infinite amount of row upon row of filing cabinets of worksheets, government level security around this thing, guarded by licensed clinicians. Inside, thousands, and I mean thousands of worksheets dedicated to things like circle your emotions, rate your anxiety, color your feelings, draw your safe space. By worksheet number 847, you get what I'm saying. Your soul, meanwhile, is sitting in the corner whispering, I don't think this is what I meant. Here's another uncomfortable thought. Not every existential crisis is a mental health illness. Yeah. Sometimes your life hurts because you've outgrown it. Sometimes anxiety is grief over a life unlived. Sometimes depression is a way to pretending to be someone you're not. Yeah. Sometimes burnout isn't a chemical imbalance. It's your soul filing a formal complaint. It's done. It's toast. Now, that doesn't mean every depression or every anxiety disorder has a spiritual explanation. It doesn't. Some people absolutely need therapy. No question about it. Some need medication. Some need both. But I think we've become so committed to clinical language and have therapized therapy so much that we've forgotten the spiritual and the existential language. We've medicalized every ache of the human spirit. But what if your pain isn't simply asking to disappear? What if it's asking to teach you something, to show you something, to remind you of something? Carl Jung once suggested that what we resist can become our teacher. Many spiritual traditions have understood suffering not as punishment and not as sin, but as initiation. The question becomes, what if healing isn't returning to who you were? What if healing is becoming someone you've never been? That's a much more dangerous question. Why? Because it demands change. Real change. Not hanging out in a parking lot. Not intellectual change. Life change. This is where coaching, mentoring, community, spiritual practice, and meaningful challenges can become so important. Not because they're replacements for therapy. Please hear me. They're not. They serve different purposes. Therapy often asks, what happened to you? Coaching often asks, what are you going to do now? Where are you now? Both matter. One heals the wound or attempts to, the other helps you build a life that isn't organized around the wound. It builds on top of the wound. There's a profound difference. One of my fears is that we've confused emotional safety with human flourishing. Life isn't safe. Love isn't safe. Creating isn't safe. Starting a business isn't safe. Falling in love isn't safe. Having children isn't safe. Speaking your truth isn't safe. Being fully alive requires an honesty and a vulnerability, not the absence of it. Sometimes growth feels suspiciously like anxiety. The difference? Well, one shrinks your world, the other expands it. The spiritual traditions understood something we've forgotten. Transformation isn't comfortable. It's disruptive. It messes things up. It asks you to let old identities die, to disappoint people, to leave certainty behind, to become unfamiliar even to yourself. Yeah, you're going to feel lost for a time. No worksheet can do that for you, by the way. No diagnosis can do that. Eventually, you have to step into and rise into your life. Maybe that's why so many people still feel empty after years of self work, because they didn't actually need another explanation or another historical anecdote. They needed an invitation into the fire of courage, into service, into creativity, into love, into something sacred, into those parts of themselves that maybe they despise. You know, those deepest parts of us that don't come alive because we perfectly understand ourselves. They come alive because we participate in something larger than ourselves. So, is therapy enough? Well, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it's exactly what someone needs, and it's exactly what the doctor ordered. Sometimes it's life saving. But therapy is not the Messiah. It cannot become your purpose. It cannot become your philosophy of life. It cannot become your substitute for community, courage, spirituality, connection, responsibility, adventure, creativity, and purpose or meaning. Eventually, healing has to leave the office. It has to enter your relationships, your daily living, your work, your calling, pretty much your everyday life. Because the goal was never to become endlessly consumed with yourself, to stay in that damn parking lot. The goal was to become so fully alive that your presence and awareness resonates more deeply with yourself, but also with others and the world around you. Towards service, towards love, towards truth, towards the sacred. That's recovery. That's rebuilding, and that is rising. Not merely surviving and not simply managing symptoms. It's recovering the part of yourself that remembers why you are here in the first place. If that resonates with you, welcome if this is your first time to Sacred Fox Consulting. This isn't a place that worships comfort. It's a place that honors the fire of transformation and becoming. And frankly, being real and getting real. So until next time, stay curious, stay courageous, and remember, your spirit doesn't need another damn worksheet. It needs a reason to feel alive. We'll see you next time. Thank you.